Okay, guys, like I said, these aspects are very, very important. I want to explain to you now. So when I'm done with this, I can go to topic three, right? Most often, you have questions like this, right? They will ask you the difference between a project management and general management. Very, very important because once you come across a question like this and you don't know how to answer it, it's a big problem. Don't drag your chair on the floor. I'm recording something so that you can hear, right? So, a project management, because most often this question always, or something like this come in form of a question in the exam, it's always 10 marks. It's a lot. If you don't know it, you're going to struggle. So, in terms of project management, as we do know, project management create a change in circumstances. You do project or you embark on a project to achieve something, right? And once your objectives are achieved, obviously the status quo would not be the same thing. Where you were before, there should be a leap, there should be a change of circumstance. For example, you are here studying for 3 years, right? Remember, I told you that it's a project, it's a kind of a project. Because after 3 years, you are supposed to graduate and forge ahead for your future endeavor, right? And there are resources involved. Got its own time frame. It's unique to each and every one of you, right? So by the end of the 3 years, you are going to walk away from here in a transformed manner, right? Better off than the way you walked in here 3 years ago. Do you understand what I mean? So there must be a change. Even now, I could see some changes in without being told. Because I remember most of you used to come here very shy, you know, and you see the girls now they are growing, the boys are growing, right? Their level of reasoning or your level of reasoning, let me put it this way, is becoming much more broader than it was before. And your level of confidence, you know. So something is happening, It's a kind of transformation which eventually lead to change of circumstance. That is how a project is. Right. General management on its own effectively manage and build on a stable workplace. What is happening in the workplace is a routine, something of a routine, right? Then let's talk about the resources. My friend, when you are sitting down, look here, don't drag the seat on the floor, né? So it's gonna make noise. We're not gonna be able to hear. If you're at home to listen, you don't do like that. Do your things gently. Right. Then in terms of resources, it uses resources which are available for the project only. In project management, we got dedicated resources just for the project, right? Resources are dedicated to the project, and you don't use resources beyond that, right? Then, in general management, it uses resources which are fixed, right? Then, work on a defined time scale with a definite date in terms of the time frame, right? Project management have got a time frame, you know. General management is an ongoing. It's like more or less if somebody asks you the difference between a project and non-project, then it creates unique outcomes. Is that not what we said when we were doing the characteristics of a project? Obviously, we said so. Then, in terms of general management, it sustain and develop ongoing outcomes. The outcomes is ongoing, never ends, and it's not something that creates a unique outcome. Then, project management manages a team of individuals brought together for the project alone. The individual or the teams, people that work in a project, they are dedicated to that project. They are brought together just to execute that project. And once the project is executed, they will be debriefed, if you will, disbanded. You know what I mean by disbanded? For example, if there is a project, right, we need to do, perhaps I'm the project manager, you are the team members. We're going to put you together to work with me as a project manager to execute that specific project. Once it is done, it's clear, then we're going to come together, we do our debriefing, then we say bye, the project is done. Right. Then, in terms of general management, it manages staff on an ongoing basis. It's ongoing. Right? General management is concerns itself in managing the staff working in the business or working in the company on a daily basis, routine basis, right? Then, in terms of motivation, right, motivates the project team and other stakeholders, right? Motivate the project teams, and because we are concerned with the project teams and stakeholders. Whereas in terms of general management, the general manager or whosoever that is managing motivate staff and parties of the organization. I must use my tool, man, right? Forgot about it. Right, so that you know where I am. We are here now. Then, in terms of negotiation, the project manager negotiates effective solution to the project conflict. Right. In most cases, or more often than not, you got conflicts in the project, or you may have conflicts in the project, which needs to be resolved. In level four, we're going to talk more about this, how to resolve conflicts in project management. Right. Then this one negotiate effective solution to the organizational conflict, not project conflict. Right? Yeah, here is organizational conflict within the organization. This one is limited to uh, project conflict. I will show you another important thing that is interesting that you need to know as well. These are important stuff. Where is this stuff? Okay. This one again is very, very important. Advantages and disadvantages of a Gantt chart. Very, very important. Comes out in the exam every time, and the mark allocation is very high. If you miss it, you struggle to pass, right? They said advantages and disadvantages of a Gantt chart, right? You know there. Let me start with this. You know what is a Gantt chart? How many of you have seen a Gantt chart here? I think I showed you a Gantt chart the other day, right? A Gantt chart is a scheduling tools for you to schedule the timeline of your project, how long your project is going to take. Because when you look at a Gantt chart, it contains the tasks that needs to be done and when those tasks needs to be done, right? You as a project manager, it will help you to manage your time. is very, very important. Right. So when you look at the Gantt chart, as I said, you got the task and the duration. Each of the respective tasks that needs to be done have got specific durations that needs to be mapped out on a Gantt chart. Right. So when you look at a Gantt chart holistically, by mere visualization, you can be able to see how long the project is going to take. Right. So what we want to discuss today is this. A Gantt chart on its own have got its own advantages as well as disadvantages. Right. There are certain areas where we say, oh man, this thing is good, it's helping a lot. There are certain areas that is short of. So those are the things that we want to discuss now, right? The first advantage is that it allows you to work out the project duration. Nice. It can help you to work out the project duration. For example, you got a piece of project, right? Let's say if I commission you as a project manager or maybe as somebody to execute a project quickly, I say, can you help me um, arrange this class, make it look nice, right? I'm gonna pay you or just give you a tip of buy you a cool drink, right? Please do it quickly within this specific period of time. It's a kind of a project, of course, right? Is that not a project? It counts as a project, right? Now, what needs to be done? First of all, you need to identify the task that needs to be done. Perhaps we need to sweep the floor, right? That is task one, right? When you finish sweeping the floor, right? If it is something that you need to mop, right? You mop the floor. That could be task two, right? After that, you need to make sure that you put the chairs and tables in the right position. Right. Now, when you finish with that, you come to my corner here. Right. You see those tasks. Then, if you want to schedule a Gantt chart, the first task, it must be in series, the way it should be executed. That is the difference between a Gantt chart and a work breakdown structure. A work breakdown structure doesn't necessarily arrange in series. You don't need worry about interdependencies. You don't worry about relationship. Right. What we mean by relationship in the project, there's could be certain tasks that overlaps, right? Before you end the preceding task, the succeeding task must have started. The preceding is the one before, preceding. The one that you need to start before this other one, or the one once you stop, let's say this is A, this is B, right? A is the preceding, here B is the succeeding, right? So there should be relationship in terms of how are the two related. Are you going to stop A before you start B? Or perhaps you complete A to a certain percentage, maybe 50% before you start B. So those type of considerations need to be in place. It needs to be factored in when you are designing a Gantt chart. Right. You must know what you are doing for you to be able to design a reasonable Gantt chart. Right. So we say it allows you, obviously, to work out the project duration. Then in terms of the disadvantage, particularly hard to read for larger projects. For example, the small project I gave just now, how many tasks? 4 or 5 tasks. It's easy, right? Okay. What if you've got a big project, for example, of building a stadium, right? Hello, yeah, where are you coming from now? Break time. The break time is over. Why are you coming to the class now? Huh? Please, man, be punctual in the class. It's very important. Don't drag this thing on the floor, please. You're making noise. You're distracting others now. So, for a big project, imagine the number of tasks that needs to be done. It's a lot, right? How are you going to represent it? Of course, you can be able to represent it in a good way or, yeah, on a paper. But if somebody needs to read it, it's going to look very clumsy, clumsy. A lot of things muddled together compared to only 4 or 5 tasks, right? So that is one of the disadvantages. For a big project, it looks clumsy and it looks very difficult to read. And one can even be bored in reading through the Gantt chart because it's too much. That is what we mean by this. One of the disadvantages, right? One another advantage we can talk about is it lay out the order in which activities should take place. Like I told you just now, when you are drawing a Gantt chart, you don't lay out the task randomly, right? It mustn't be at a random. It must be organized in order in terms of which one needs to be done first, then followed by the next one. And you must take this thing as a tip. If you are requested to design a Gantt chart, when you list the task, you must come back and prioritize. You prioritize it. Which one needs to be done first before the other? It must be in order. It's like you are building a house. You got a project of building a house. Will you first of all put the roof before the foundation? Yeah, you can't do that. So it must be in order. That is what we are saying. So by mere looking at the Gantt chart, it shows out the order in which activities must take place. Right. Okay. The disadvantage we can talk in terms of that in reverse. It communicates relatively few information per unit area of display. Right. So when you look at the Gantt chart, right, it shows you a kind of a bar, right, horizontally, right. But in terms of the intensity of work involved there, it doesn't display it. When you see a Gantt chart, right, let's say of 2 tasks, perhaps taking the same days, this one 5 days, this one 2 days, 5 days, okay, let's say 5 days, 5 days, right. One of the tasks must be much more intensive than the other. So it speaks less of that. That is one of less of the information per unit area of display. Then another advantage is that it shows the dependency between activities. The dependencies. What do we mean by dependencies? In other words, the relationship. The relationship. Like I demonstrated a short while ago, that you have preceding before and then succeeding. Right. For example, if you have activities like this A, B, C, D, right? A is the first activity, right? A doesn't have a preceding. No, there is no preceding A because it's the first one, right? Then B is succeeding A. A is a preceding, right? What is the type of dependency, or rather, the type of relationship, if you like, between A and B, right? We got different types of relationship or dependencies. For example, stop to finish. Stop to finish. That means preceding must stop, must end before you start the succeeding. Does it make sense to you? Stop to finish. Does it click for you? Right? Do you understand what I mean by that? Stop to finish. For example, like the simple example I gave to you, right? A project of tidying up the classroom, right? You must first of all finish sweeping before you mop, right? You can you can have that type of relationship, right? But in some cases, you can break it, right? It depends on how big the project is, or it depends on how you want to coordinate the project, right? You can divide it. You sweep that place, then you start mopping, then as you are mopping there now, then you start, another person will be sweeping this side. It can work like that. Don't you think so? Right. Okay. So that is why we said for you to be able to fast track a project, to make it to happen before time, you need to be well experimented. You need to be a well experienced project manager, whereby you can play around those dynamics. You know. Yeah. But the bottom line is what I want to explain in this context is the dependencies, the relationship. So you can have those type of relationships, stop to start, or stop to finish, or start to start, right? Start to start. What start to start? You're gonna what I mean by start to start in parallel. You know what we mean by parallel? Yeah, they will, together. The two tasks, if you are talking specifically of two tasks, must start together. So, with the help of a Gantt chart, you can be able to um, show that. Right. Okay. Gantt chart do not represent the size of the project or the relative size of the work elements. Yeah, it doesn't represent the size because it's just a bar. So the bar in the Gantt. Okay. Now let's talk about the advantage here. Makes it obvious what should be achieved. Right. So the bar in a Gantt chart are all standard size. So this means work package of the same duration appear to be of the same importance, of which they are not important. Guys, this thing is very, very important. I'm telling you. Right? Because I just decided it's like having a revelation that I must teach you this type of stuff. Because I could see first time you struggle, right? So once these things are explained to you properly, there is no way that you're not going to excel in the exam. Right. I think, let me see if there's another one. Yeah. Make sure you know all those stuff. They are very important. Here's the advantages. We've done this. Okay. I think that is the stuff. Now, I want to, you've got this slide, man. Okay, this one we're going to do it later, not now. This is another thing that is very important, these tables, but not now, right? There's another thing I want to teach you. I don't think you've got this one, this slide, but just remind me to send it to you. This topic, the slide you've got, this one is not there.